Hello everyone, my name is Mimi79. Today I've got some more daily race here on Bathurst, and this was an absolutely brilliant race. I went down to pretty much the very last corner, so stay tuned and you'll see what happens at the end. But we're here in the Chevrolet Corvette C7. There's no C8 in this game, and I doubt they will add one until GT7. But you can see that Jungels Cog 64 is in fact ERM Nick, who is probably one of the fastest drivers on the game, full stop. He is just absolutely rapid, and even when he's in a Z4, which has pretty much zero straight line speed, it's going to be very difficult to beat him. But the main strength about the Corvette in this one is the straight line speed, which means we should be able to hold him off down the Conrod straight, which is probably by far the easiest overtaking opportunity on the whole lap. Bathurst is obviously a very tricky circuit. It's never been easy to drive, especially up on the mountain. It's very bumpy, very narrow, lots of twists and turns. It's a very tricky circuit to get dead right. But look at the gap on the top left, 0.8 of a second, and I'm pretty sure the Z4 takes a lot longer to warm the tyres up than the Corvette, but he gets the gap down to about 0.6 here, and now it's just dipping below half a second. But into the Forest's Elbow, we've got a decent enough gap to the point where we should be safe down the Conrod straight. So the main thing about this race is that any mistake I make will be sorely felt, because you'll just see how well he keeps up with me, especially in a car that is known for being pretty awful in Group 3. But into the chase, nice and smooth on the exit, gaining a bit of time. The Corvette is very good on the acceleration, I found. However, I felt as though my pace was definitely better than the F-Type which I was using at the start of the week. But into the hell corner then, dipping two wheels kind of on the curb. It's a very tricky corner because of the camber on the apex. It kind of dips down a little bit, so you've got to be wary of that. But you can see there Nick is only 3.5 tenths behind. I'm very impressed that he's managing to keep up. I thought I would just walk away with this race, even though he is a top split driver and he is like at the top of top split. I thought that because the Z4 is so slow on the straight, I thought I'd just gap him very quickly. But turns out the Z4, if you're in a slipstream, is a pretty solid shot for this race because of the fact that it's very good on tyre wear, which is probably the reason why Nick will be able to keep up with me, because the Corvette and with me being on a pad isn't the best combination. So you might see Nick keeping up with me quite a lot towards the back end of the race. But into the dipper, bit wide there on the entry, probably cost me about 0.5 tenth or so. And Nick is all over my chuff here, and I've got to be very careful that he doesn't get me into the chase, because as soon as he overtakes me it's over. Even with the Corvette being 2 or 3 tenths quicker on the straight, you know, with his pace he'll probably still gap me in 1 or 2 laps. But you can see that dipping on the grass a little bit, and he's tucking in behind. He doesn't want to overtake me because he knows that as soon as I get in the slipstream on a straight it's over for him. But he's going to go side by side into Murray's corner, and in fact he goes for the move, and we're going to go side by side. Lots of respect given, and we somehow both make it out of there alive, and he's just going to back out because he knows that there's no point fighting, especially when we're pulling away from the pack behind. Saying a 2:01.8 there, very bad lap. Definitely go a second quicker easily, I think, if I just don't make so many stupid mistakes. It also doesn't help when you've got one of the fastest drivers in the world behind you. There's definitely a lot of pressure to not make any mistakes. But let's just look at the gap then, 1.5 tenths. So any mistake will be felt very sorely, I think, because as soon as I hit the wall, it's over, to be honest. So we've got to avoid those big things, really, that are on the side of the track. As soon as I could get a decent gap, but just look at that, I just ran a little bit wide and gained so much time on me. Just goes to show that the Corvette is not the greatest at high speed corners. However, another very good shout, probably a better car for this race, is the Toyota Supra, the racing concept. I know it's quite late into the week, but if you still are doing Daily Race C, then the Supra is probably the way to go because of its capabilities in the high speed corners. Just looking at the gap, Nick is all over my rear end. It's going to be very tricky to defend. However, as soon as he pulls alongside, he just doesn't have the oomph to get past it. We're just going to hold on. He's going to look around the outside, and is he going to make the move work? No, he's not. I just managed to hold the inside, and there goes another lap of staying in front of him. To be honest, if he was in any car with competent straight line speed, he would have run away with this race. However, he went with the Z4 and he made it work. You know, it is very bad in a straight line. It's almost unbelievable, because on the Conrod straight he's only gaining 1.5 to 2 tenths when he's got the slingshot, and in any other car, or like a car like the Corvette or the Supra, they would have flown past. To be honest, I would have been just trying to defend for a second, I think. But Nick goes around the outside. Is he going to make it work? Not quite. Just dips 2 wheels beyond the white line, and that's going to lose him a lot of grip. And now we've got a gap of about 4.5 tenths. So we've got to try and pull away now. I knew this was my chance to break away. However, immediately I just lose 2 tenths. I went a bit too wide on the hairpin, and that is going to cost me. The gap is pretty much the same as it was before. So any time I gain on Nick, whenever he makes a mistake, he makes up in pretty much 3 or 4 corners. However, into the downhill sweep, braking just at the end of the curb on the left hand side and flicking the car left. Very fun sequence, I think, when you get it right. It's so nice to get this sector dead right. However, it is very tricky to get dead right and get a very sloppy exit on the exit of the Forest's Elbow. And now we've got a very good opportunity at getting past me here. But just again there, looking at the gap, I'm pulling away. Even though he does have the slipstream, he just doesn't have enough of. He goes to the inside, and we're going to hold it round the outside. Are we going to make it work? Kicking up some grass there on the exit, but we just about hold the position. How we're still in P1 is beyond me, because he has put me under so much pressure. Again, just running wide on the grass and exit, and he is going to go to the right hand side, but he's not going to go for the move. And this is a crucial phase of the race, I think, because at the end of this lap we are going to come in for our pit stop. Anything Nick does, we'll do. I don't want to cock up my strategy because I thought I was quicker or something. I want to just play it safe and do what Nick does. However, we've just got to make sure that the car behind Jungle's cog, Kepranar, is not within striking distance of either of us, because he has caught up due to our immense battling throughout this race so far. And this is where I can't make any mistakes whatsoever, because any time that I lose here now will be felt at the pit stops. And with Kepranar, I think, not on the 2-stop, it will be very important that we try and just get a clean lap in. That wasn't a good example of running 2 wheels on the grass, losing a lot of tyre grip, and into the dipper. Just not the greatest run, could have hugged the inside a lot more. The gap is just under 2 tenths into the Forest Elbow, clattering the wall there, and that is going to be so important, because look at the gap on the left hand side. It's a quarter of a second. We did get better exit, however he will probably get me into the chase. Just stick it to the inside because I don't want him to get in front into the pit stop. That is literally the last thing I want to happen. But he's got the draft. Look at him charging through, but he's just going to back out. I think that was the smartest idea for both of us there. Didn't really want to battle into the pit lane, but in we go then, braking just before the start the curb on the right hand side, and not a bad pit entry to be fair. I think we did get that pretty much spot on. So got a couple cars coming in on the left hand side. One of them was on mediums, which is very interesting, so we might have to look out for them at the end of the race. But you can see there the gap is just opening up now to almost 3/10, and Caprinar has actually stayed out for another lap, and this is crucial because I think doing 6 laps on the soft is overkill, as on that final lap you have so little tyre grip, and to be honest that corner there is the only time they're going to gain on me in the whole lap, because obviously I have cold tyres. See they're immediately gaining almost 2/10, which just goes to show how little grip he has left in the Hyundai Genesis, I believe. Very bold choice considering the balance of performance changes to it. But into McPhillamy, hugging the inside as much as possible. You kind of have to really to maximise the lap time. Bit kind of conservative there, could have definitely pushed it a bit more. However, we're keeping a gap to Nick. I felt very comfortable on the medium tyres compared to the soft, and this is perhaps why I've kind of edged out a gap to Nick a little bit more. So the gap 3/10, and from past experience this should be enough to just hold on. So down the Conrod straight we go. Gap is not enough, I believe, for Nick to go for a move. However, he will be close, maybe just under a tenth or so. And you can see there he's got the draft, but he's just not quite close enough. We hold the inside and we remain in second place. The gap now to Caprinar is only 2.3 seconds, and we definitely lost 4/10 there because of sticking to the inside and not getting a very good exit. But now we move back up into the lead of the race, and with only 3 laps to go, just now, this is the point where I really have to start defending. I know that this is the point where I can just afford to stay in front and not make any mistakes. I just have to defend really for 3 laps, and with the Z4 having abominable, Jesus Christ, abominable straight line speed, we should be able to hold on down the Conrod straight unless he's under 2/10 behind. Above the mountain we go, braking just at the end of the shadow there, the tree. Very good brake mark, I believe. However, you can brake a little bit later in time trial because of the low fuel and the optimum grip soft tyres. However, I'm definitely finding my feet here on the mediums, definitely carrying a lot more speed than I would on the softs, I think. But again, definitely not as quick there. 4.5 tenths down on my personal best. When you've got R4M Consta there, the fastest lap, he is also a top split driver. However, for this race he is also on his 2nd account. And also Tidgeney's in here, so hi Tidge. However, he did start at the back, so I'm pretty sure he got held up in traffic, as I don't see him anywhere on the top 8. But the gap 2/10, and this is where I got a little bit nervous, because I know that if he could go to the outside, if he could just hold that line, he could try and make it work. But again, look at that, side by side into the chase, but we just managed to keep the position. Again, the lack of straight line speed on the Z4 really not helping him out at all. That car could really do with a 1 or 2% power increase, because it's a very solid race car. It's very good when you're in the slipstream of other cars, but just on its own in clean air, it's appalling, really, because you've got 0 straight line speed, and that really does make you suffer, especially when you're kind of doing an undercut. If you've not got the slipstream of another car, it really does help. Nick going around the outside there, but it doesn't work. I think he misjudged his braking just a little bit, and that opens up the gap to 4/10, and that's going to give us a little bit of breathing space. And just there, keeping the gap actually to a pretty decent margin, 4.5 tenths almost now, and nailing the apex there. However, we just have to bear in mind that there's only another lap left of this race, and this is kind of the crunch time, because as soon as it's the final lap, he's going to be looking for moves pretty much at every opportunity possible. So down the dipper then, clipping the apex pretty nicely. We've actually got a very decent gap to Nick now, almost 4/10. We've definitely started to get some pace into these medium tyres. The gap actually 4/10 is probably one of the biggest it's been for the majority of the race since lap 1, if I remember correctly. And we could just afford, I think, to just take the normal racing line. Unless he completely misjudges his braking, it's very unlikely he'll go for the move so far back. So into the chase then, braking on my normal braking point, and I actually kind of felt a breath of fresh air, because for pretty much the whole race I was going defensive, and you could look at the gap from kind of the top 5 to everyone behind it. It's absolutely immense. Pretty much the whole pack is going through the chase now, and we're on the start finish straight. Nick on my inside, we're going to go round the outside. This is the final lap of the race. It actually takes the lead, however, with the superior power of the Corvette, just look at that, we're just getting that advantage back. And with this being the last lap of the race, we've got to do everything we can to hold this position. So immediately we're going to go to the left hand side, and thankfully he doesn't go for the move. We're just lifting off there, maybe costing me half a tenth or so. But going up the mountain, it's going to be very, very close into the chase, I believe. All over the rear of my car. This is so close. He's done so well to keep up with me this whole race. So up the mountain then, clipping the apex very nicely. However, he's just still there. He's hanging with me with the superior tyre wear, and with the fact that perhaps he is a more skilled player, gaining so much time on there. He's less than a tenth behind. He's just looking at every opportunity to just not be right behind me. Bit of lag there for Nick, so he probably lost a half tenth or so. Makes a little mistake. He's going to lose about maybe a tenth, but into the forest elbow, powering out as early as possible. And now this is the last stretch of the race. If he could get past me here, there's no way I'm ever going to get him back. So we've just got to stick to the inside as much as possible. However, with his moves he's been attempting all races, most likely he's going to go to the outside. Just look at the gap here. He's going to go to the right hand side. We're going to try and leave him as much space as possible. He actually pulls ahead there, but there's a bit of contact on the apex. He pushes me off, and somehow, I have no idea how, I get a 1 second penalty. Just absolutely devastating. However, he backs off, and thankfully he has the sportsmanship to let me go. And that was so annoying, because it was such a good race. We could have gone to the very last corner. But if you did enjoy, just like and subscribe, turn on post notifications, leave a comment down below. But take care everyone, and goodbye.